You know, some of history's biggest secrets aren't buried in some forgotten tomb or lost in a dense jungle. Sometimes they're hiding right in plain sight, or, in this case, just beneath the waves of a very famous sea. So today, we're diving into a colossal underwater mystery that has baffled scientists for years.
Okay, so picture this. It's 2003. Scientists are out doing a totally routine geophysical survey of the Sea of Galilee. They're using sonar to map the lake bed, and they're pretty much expecting to see a smooth, sandy bottom. And then, bam! Something pops up on their screens that is completely unexpected. A massive, cone-shaped anomaly that just doesn't belong.
The image was there, plain as day, but what it was? Total mystery. This one little sonar blip kicked off a whole modern archaeological investigation, all centered on one tantalizing question. Just what was hiding in the depths of this ancient sea?
Yeah, this accidental find wasn't just some random pile of rocks. It was the beginning of a puzzle that was thousands of years in the making. And the very first piece of that puzzle was figuring out exactly where it was, and more importantly, what it was made of. So they pinpointed its location in the southwestern part of the sea, which is a real hotspot for ancient history, not far from major old settlements like Bet Yera. On the sonar, it looked like this perfect, giant cone just rising up from an otherwise totally flat lake floor. Weird, right?
Okay, so what do you do next? You send in the divers, of course. And what they found down there was definitive. This thing was a huge, circular pile of unworked basalt boulders. Some of them were as long as a meter. There were no signs of any cutting or chiseling, but it was crystal clear this was not a natural formation. This was built, on purpose, by people.
And listen, when I say built, I mean this was a construction project on a scale that's just hard to wrap your head around. The word massive doesn't even begin to cover it. Researchers estimate this thing weighs around 60,000 tons. To put that in perspective, that's heavier than most modern naval destroyers. I mean, just imagine the sheer human effort it would have taken to quarry, move, and place all of those stones. Its base is about 70 meters, or 230 feet across. That's wider than the wingspan of a Boeing 747. This wasn't some tiny little shrine. This was a landmark. And it's tall, too. We're talking nearly 10 meters, or over 30 feet high. That's like a 3-story building just sitting there silently at the bottom of a lake. So when you put all those numbers together, you start to see the real picture. A project of this magnitude tells you we're dealing with a complex, really well-organized society that had some serious planning skills and resources. This wasn't some weekend project. This was a statement.
All right, so we've established it's huge, and it's definitely man-made. But that's pretty much where the easy answers stop. Now we get to the real heart of the mystery, the big questions that have stumped archaeologists for 2 decades.
The first major question you have to ask is how. How in the world did they build this thing? And there are basically 2 big competing theories. Was it built on dry land when the water levels were lower and then it got submerged? Or did its ancient builders somehow construct this entire 60,000-ton monument from scratch, underwater?
Now, the argument for building it on dry land, it's pretty solid. We know for a fact that lake levels have changed dramatically over the millennia, and the area is tectonically active, so the ground itself could have just sunk. Plus, its shape is a lot like other Bronze Age burial mounds or cairns that you find on land all over the ancient world.
But then you've got the underwater theory, and honestly, it's just as fascinating. Imagine this thing as a giant man-made reef, a kind of fish nursery built to attract marine life and support a fishing economy. Divers have confirmed that fish absolutely swarm around the structure today. And while there's nothing else on this scale, there are smaller stone piles in the lake that people think were used for the same purpose. And if the how wasn't confusing enough, then there's the when. By analyzing the sand that's built up around the base, researchers have given it an age range of anywhere between 2,000 and 12,000 years old. I mean, that's a massive window of time. But based on similar structures in the area, a lot of archaeologists are guessing it probably dates back to the early Bronze Age, so about 4,000 or 5,000 years ago.
So we've covered the how and the when, which leads us to the biggest question of them all. Why? Why would an ancient society pour so much time and labor into building this colossal monument?
Right now, without a single artifact to go on, it's really all just educated guesswork. The theories range from the super practical, like a fish nursery, to the sacred, like a ceremonial site or maybe a huge tomb. It could have even been a kind of landmark, maybe marking where the River Jordan used to flow into the lake.
And you know, these theories, they actually fit the local context pretty well. The giant boulders create a perfect home for fish, which supports that nursery idea.
But at the same time, its location near Bet Yara, which was a major fortified city back in the early Bronze Age, points to a powerful society that was totally capable of building a grand monument for ceremonies or burials.
And if we zoom out a little, we see this structure isn't a total one-off for the region. It actually shares a lot of features with other megalithic or large stone sites from that same era. One of the most famous is a place called Rojum Khiri, a huge concentric stone circle up in the Golan Heights. Could the same culture that built that have built this underwater giant too?
So here we are 20 years after its discovery, and we're looking at a monumental structure with a mysterious purpose, an unknown age, and we're not even sure how it was built. It's a true sunken enigma, plain and simple.
Look, the only way we're going to get real answers here is with a full-blown underwater excavation. But that is incredibly difficult. The water visibility is low, and any kind of digging could just stir up all the sediment and bury the site all over again. It's just a complex, slow, and, very, very expensive process.
You've heard me use the word cairn a couple of times. It's just the technical term archaeologists use for a man-made pile of stones like this one. They were often used for burials or just as landmarks. And it's a word that really captures the whole range of possibilities for our sunken giant.
I think one of the lead researchers, an archaeologist named Danny Nadel, really summed it up perfectly. He said, "It's a mystery, and every mystery is interesting." That quote just captures the whole feeling. The frustration of not knowing is matched only by the absolute excitement of the puzzle itself.
And so, the sunken giant just waits, silent and still, beneath the waters of the Galilee. It has held on to its secrets for thousands of years. The big question for us is, will a new generation of explorers finally be the ones to reveal them?